Imagine walking into a bar, um, buying a house, and then maybe boarding an international flight, all without a single piece of plastic in your pocket.
Like zero physical cards here.
Exactly. No driver's license, no passport, no physical bank cards. But as you do all these things, a microscopic real-time scan of your skin texture and like a frictionless mathematical handshake happening inside your phone proves to the entire world that you are exactly who you say you are.
And more importantly, that you aren't, a highly advanced AI hologram.
Right. Which sounds crazy, I know. It isn't some science fiction pitch, though. It is the absolute reality of the 2026 digital identity rollout.
Yeah, it's a reality that most people just haven't fully grasped yet because the infrastructure being built right now is largely invisible,
Mm-hmm.
but it is fundamentally rewiring how society functions from the ground up.
Which is exactly why we're dedicating today's deep dive to just, well, tearing this topic wide open. We've synthesized an absolute mountain of sources for this one.
Oh, a massive amount.
Yeah, we are talking highly technical W3C API documentation, global market forecasts stretching from right now all the way into 2032, European Union legal mandates, World Bank infrastructure reports, and even some incredibly heated U.S. legislative debates.
It's a lot of ground to cover.
It really is.
Yeah.
We are taking all of this complex, disparate data to explain why the fundamental way we prove who we are is undergoing a complete structural overhaul.
And this overhaul, it touches everything. It's not just a quick software update on your phone. It is a fundamental rewiring of global trust.
So think about the last time you, the listener, had to deal with the friction of proving your identity. Whether you were trying to log into a locked bank account or applying for a new job or even just registering to vote.
Right, the hassle of it all.
Yeah, those physical plastic cards sitting in your wallet right now and all those passwords you've memorized, they are being rapidly replaced by cryptographic tokens and biometric scans. The ground is shifting right under our feet.
Absolutely.
And because navigating this new digital landscape requires trusted, high-level resources, we really want to give a massive shout out to our first sponsor for today's deep dive, CryptoImpactHub.com.
They're great.
They really are an incredible resource for understanding the real-world impact of digital assets, cryptography, and, exactly the kind of immutable infrastructure we are going to break down today.
Yeah, and their work on cryptography is incredibly relevant to the actual plumbing of this new identity ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because without the cryptography, none of this trust scales.
Right. So let's figure out how this trust actually scales. I've brought you in today because we have all these distinct threads. We have a digital driver's license sitting in an Apple wallet, and then we have European regulators screaming about an AML KYC tsunami.
It's a lot of jargon.
Yeah, so how do these things connect? Let's start with the most visible change for the average person, which is basically the death of the physical wallet.
Yeah, the disappearance of the physical driver's license is really the gateway here. To understand the macro level shifts, you have to look at the consumer adoption curve happening right now in the U.S. market.
Okay, let's look at that.
The 2026 data we have from Trinsic and Credence ID is incredibly telling. This is officially the year that mobile driver's licenses, or NDLs, transition from, early adopter novelties to mainstream everyday utility.
Let's put some specific numbers and locations to that, because it's one thing to just say it's going mainstream, but I saw a detail in the Trinsic report that really grounded this for me.
Oh, the California DMV.
Yes. The California DMV, which obviously manages a massive population, is currently expanding its digital transformation by integrating MDLs directly into the Samsung wallet.
Right.
They were already live with Apple and Google, and now Samsung is natively supported.
Which means the vast majority of smartphones in, one of the largest economies on the planet, can now natively hold a state-issued, mathematically verifiable credential.
Huge.
It is. You don't have to download a clunky third-party government app that drains your battery and crashes all the time. It is baked right into the operating system of the device you already use to pay for your groceries.
And the utility is actually there now. The TSA is actively accepting these digital credentials at security checkpoints.
Yeah, you can literally walk into an airport, tap your phone on a reader like you're buying a coffee, and just proceed to your gate.
No fumbling for a plastic card while the line piles up behind you and people get mad.
Exactly. But the Trinsic report also grounds us in reality, noting that significant hurdles do remain. The rollout is still highly fragmented.
How so?
Well, different states have varying levels of assurance. meaning they have totally different security protocols for how they actually issue that digital ID to your phone in the first place.
Oh, right. So some states are stricter than others.
Exactly. And if a state has a weak issuance process, the digital ID is fundamentally compromised from day one. Plus, consumer awareness is lagging.
Yeah, I bet.
You have millions of people who possess this capability on their phone right now, but they have no idea it even exists.
Well, it takes time to break decades of habit. We are hardwired to reach for our physical wallets when someone asks for ID.
We really are.
Yeah.
However, the signal that this is an unstoppable train is actually coming from the private sector. Major brands like Amazon, Uber, and Chime are actively partnering with these wallet providers.
Wow, really? Uber and Amazon.
Yeah. And when companies with that kind of user base start spending millions to build infrastructure to accept MTLs, it signals that everyday private sector use cases are imminent. It's not just for the airport anymore.
That makes sense.
It's for instantly opening a bank account on Chime without waiting 3 days for background checks, or seamlessly proving you are authorized to drive for Uber.
Now, in the US, this is largely being driven by convenience and, as you said, private sector partnerships. But let's look across the Atlantic, because the European Union doesn't just wait for the private sector to figure things out.
No, they definitely do not.
They mandate it. According to the IADS 2.0 mandate, and we are looking at some heavy analysis from Nemirial and SumSub here, by December 2027, all EU member states are legally required to mandate the acceptance of the European Digital Identity Wallet, or the EDI wallet.
The timeline on this is so aggressive. The reports note we are currently sitting in a highly critical 9-month countdown.
Just 9 months.
Yeah, by December 2026, those wallets must be fully rolled out and available to citizens across the entire EU. And then they have exactly 1 year before acceptance becomes legally mandatory across the board.
Which means if you are a bank, a telecom company, or really any major service provider in Europe, you have to be ready to accept this.
You have no choice.
And the language being used by industry insiders at Nemirial to describe this shift is wild. They are calling it an AML KYC tsunami.
The tsunami.
AML being anti-money laundering and KYC being know your customer. But why tsunami? That sounds, I don't know, destructive.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is destructive to the old way of doing business, which is a good thing because the old way was incredibly inefficient.
Okay, how so?
This mandate fundamentally shifts how financial institutions and telecoms handle customer due diligence, or CDD. Let's look at how this worked before the EUDI wallet.
Sure.
If a citizen in Germany wanted to open a bank account in Italy, the Italian bank had to navigate this localized, super fragmented system.
Right, different languages, different documents.
Exactly. They might require the German citizen to physically mail notarized copies of their passport, a utility bill translated into Italian, and then wait weeks for manual compliance officers to verify the document against various databases.
That sounds awful.
The friction was immense, the cost of customer acquisition was sky high, and honestly, it was still vulnerable to sophisticated document forgery.
So how does the UDI wallet actually fix that? Does it just like email a PDF of the passport faster?
Not at all. The UDI wallet creates a pan-European cryptographically secured trust framework. That same Italian bank will simply send a digital request to the German citizen's EUDI wallet. The citizen clicks Approve on their phone. Instantly, the wallet transmits a mathematically proven, state-backed guarantee of the person's identity.
Wow.
Zero manual paperwork, zero language barriers, zero physical mail. It fundamentally collapses the cost structure of cross-border commerce and compliance in Europe.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. I need to push back on this on behalf of anyone listening who isn't a cryptographer.
Fair enough.
Because my bartender or retail clerk doesn't care about a pan-European trust framework. If I just take a high-resolution photo of my physical driver's license and show that picture on my phone screen, isn't that the exact same thing?
I get asked this all the time.
Right. Like, if a physical ID is like a printed movie ticket that anyone can steal and use, is a digital ID more like a biometric retinal scan to enter a vault? Or is it just a screenshot of that movie ticket?
This is the most common misconception, and it is crucial to understand the difference. A digital ID is absolutely not a static image or a photograph. If you take a JPEG photo of your license, it has zero cryptographic validity. Anyone with 10 minutes in basic photo editing software can change their birth year, print it out, or just display it on a screen. Visual inspection of a screen is meaningless in digital security.
Okay, so if it's not a visual check, what is it?
Think of a physical ID like a wax seal on a letter. We trust it because the holographic sticker and the plastic feel authentic to our naked eye.
Right, the tactile feel.
Exactly. A true digital ID, like an MDL or the EUDI wallet, is entirely different. It is a mathematical puzzle. When your state DMV issues your digital ID, they lock your personal data inside a digital vault and sign it with a massive, unique mathematical equation, their private key.
So when I tap my phone at the airport or at a bar...
Your phone screen doesn't even need to be on.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The bouncer's device, or the TSA scanner, sends a signal to your phone asking to verify your age. Your phone transmits a piece of code. The scanner then runs a public mathematical formula, the public key, against that code.
Oh, I see.
If the math perfectly aligns, it proves with absolute certainty that the data was untouched and originated directly from the government. It is a device-to-device conversation. Human eyes are completely removed from the verification equation.
That makes a lot more sense. It's math, not visual inspection. But that transition from human eyes checking a piece of plastic to millions of different devices instantly talking to each other through mathematical puzzles that requires a massive standardized system to work, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Like, it's one thing for an Apple phone to talk to a TSA scanner that's built for it. It's entirely another for your phone to talk to a random online wine shop or, an Italian bank.
Precisely. And that brings us to the technical plumbing, the universal language that actually makes this interoperable across the entire internet.
Right, let's dive under the hood then. Our sources from the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, and developers like Walt.ide outline a major milestone that just hit in 2026.
This is huge.
It is. The Digital Credentials API, or the DC API, is now enabled by default in Chrome 141, and iOS 26 has officially added support for it in Safari. So the two biggest web browsers on the planet are now hardwired for this.
To appreciate how massive this is, you really have to look at the clunky, dangerous systems we were using right up until this rollout.
How bad was it?
Pretty bad. Before the DC API, if a website wanted to ask for your digital credential, it had to rely on custom URI schemes.
Oh, I remember seeing these. It's when the web address suddenly changes to some weird string of text, right? Like mdoc opened for VP or something like that, and prompts you to open an app.
Yes. Or they forced you to pull out your phone and scan a complex QR code displayed on your laptop screen.
Which was so annoying.
It was an incredibly disjointed user experience. But worse than that, it was a major security vulnerability due to something called app hijacking.
Okay, walk me through app hijacking. How does a custom URI scheme put a user at risk?
Well, when a website used a custom URI scheme to request your ID, it essentially just shouted into the void of your phone's operating system, hoping your secure wallet app would answer.
Just blindly shouting into the OS.
Exactly. But any app on your phone could theoretically raise its hand and claim, hey, I know how to handle this request.
Uh-oh.
Right. If a piece of malicious software was hiding on your phone, it could intercept that URI request, masquerade as your wallet, and potentially siphon off data or trick the website into accepting a fraudulent credential. The website had no reliable way to verify the integrity of the app it was talking to.
It was essentially the digital Wild West. So how does the DC API in Chrome and Safari actually solve that?
By making the web browser the ultimate secure mediator. Instead of the website shouting into the operating system, the DC API creates a standardized protocol.
Give me a concrete scenario here. Let's go back to the wine shop example. Say I'm on my laptop, browsing a boutique vineyards website, and I want to order a case of Cabernet. They need to legally verify I'm over 21. What actually happens now with this new API?
Okay, when you hit checkout, the wine shop's website makes a specialized call using the DC API. Your browser Chrome, in this case, intercepts that call. The website is temporarily paused.
Got it.
The browser then brings up a highly secure, unspoofable user interface right on your screen. It says, this specific wine shop is requesting proof that you are over 21. Which digital wallet would you like to use to fulfill this request?
So the website never directly touches my phone or my wallet.
Never. The website is completely isolated. You select your wallet, the browser communicates securely with that wallet, and your wallet generates a cryptographic proof containing only one piece of data. A true false confirmation that you are over 21.
It doesn't send my whole ID.
Exactly. It doesn't send your home address, it doesn't send your exact birth date, and it doesn't send your driver's license number.
Wow.
The browser takes that specific proof and hands it back to the wine shop. The shop gets absolute legal certainty, and you maintain complete privacy through data minimization.
but I'm looking at the documentation from Okta and Doc Labs, and the underlying cryptography they are using to facilitate this handover is intense.
It's very dense.
We are looking at standards like ISO 18013 FAFA and the SDJWT formats, and they emphasize that the responses are encrypted using JARM JWT Secured Authorization Response Mode combined with ECDHES plus A256 GCM.
I realize that sounds like an explosion at an alphabet soup factory.
It really does. I need you to translate that soup into something tangible. What do all those acronyms actually do when I buy that wine?
What those protocols do is create an impenetrable, invisible pipeline between your devices. Let's say you are buying the wine on your laptop, but your digital ID is stored on your phone in your pocket.
Okay.
The system uses something called a CTAP hybrid cable tunnel.
Okay, a tunnel. I can visualize that.
Think of it like a secure, invisible physical wire that suddenly connects your phone directly to your laptop over Bluetooth or local network protocols. The web browser acts as the heavy plastic coating around that wire.
Right, the insulation.
Exactly. It facilitates the connection and holds it together, but it has absolutely no way to see the electricity, the data flowing inside.
So what are the other acronyms for?
The ECDHAS and A256 GCM acronyms are essentially the military-grade encryption algorithms that scramble your identity data before it ever enters the tunnel.
So the data is scrambled on my phone,
Hmm?
passes through the invisible tunnel the browser set up, and is only unscrambled when it reaches the verified website.
Exactly. Even if a highly sophisticated hacker intercepted the transmission midair, all they would see is randomized cryptographic noise. Total confidentiality over the wire.
Okay, wait. That raises another massive question for me.
Let's hear it.
If my browser, which is owned by Google or Apple, is facilitating this tunnel, aren't we just handing the master keys of our identity over to big tech? Like, are they logging every single time I buy wine, check into a hospital, or vote?
It's the most critical privacy question in this entire ecosystem, and the answer mathematically is no.
Really? How are we sure?
Because of that heavy plastic coating analogy. The browser routes the encrypted traffic, but it does not possess the cryptographic keys required to decrypt the payload.
Oh, I see.
Google and Apple are mathematically locked out of the contents of the identity exchange. They can see that an exchange happened, but they cannot read the underlying data. The standard is explicitly designed to prevent tech monopolies from becoming identity panopticons.
That is incredibly reassuring. And there's another fascinating detail in this Okta report about preventing fraud from the website's end. The verifier's request, the wine shop asking for my ID, actually includes an X.509 certificate chain.
This is one of the most brilliant parts of the new standard, and it fundamentally alters the dynamic of phishing attacks.
Walk us through it, because normally phishing is me getting an email that looks exactly like my bank, clicking a link, and accidentally typing in my password to a fake site.
Right. In the physical world, when you hand your ID to a bank teller,
Yeah.
you assume they're legitimate because they are standing inside a brick-and-mortar bank.
Yeah, obviously.
But in the digital world, criminals build flawless replicas of bank websites to steal your credentials. With the DC API and X.509 certificates, the power dynamic flips completely.
How so?
Before your digital wallet even considers sharing your information, it mathematically audits the website asking for it. The X.509 certificate is essentially a digital notary stamp, proving the website is legally registered and verified by a global certificate authority.
Okay, so what happens if I click a bad link?
If you click a phishing link and a fake website tries to ping your wallet for your digital ID, your wallet will instantly recognize that the site's X.509 certificate is missing or forged.
And it just stops it.
Yes. Your phone will step in and say, "This entity is not on the globally trusted registry. Request denied." It actively, mathematically blocks the phishing attempt before you can make a mistake.
Which is a complete game changer, because as this tech gets smarter, the criminals get infinitely more sophisticated.
They adapt so fast.
They do.
Yeah.
And that is exactly why resources like scamwatchhq.com, our second sponsor for today, are so vital. Even with X.509 certificates blocking traditional phishing, scammers are constantly finding new attack vectors.
Absolutely.
Scamwatchhq.com tracks these evolving threats in real time, giving you the knowledge to spot the scams that slip through the cracks. It is a must-visit resource for protecting yourself online.
And we are going to need those resources, because while the cryptographic tunnel might be secure, the criminals aren't attacking the tunnel anymore.
No, where are they attacking?
They are attacking the endpoints.
Which brings us to the most dystopian part of this entire deep dive. We've established that the math works, the tunnel is secure, and the data is locked down. But what about the physical human holding the phone?
Exactly.
How does the system know that the person generating these cryptographic proofs is actually real and not some AI-generated simulation?
This is the absolute bleeding edge of the fraud battlefield right now. It is a relentless arms race between artificial intelligence and biometric liveness detection.
I was reading the reports from Deepadiviv and Oloid, and a specific statistic just stopped me in my tracks. As of 2026, deepfake attacks targeting liveness detection systems have surged by 311%.
Yeah, the numbers are terrifying.
It's an exponential explosion of synthetic identity fraud.
It is entirely driven by the rapid commoditization of generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, generating a convincing deepfake video required massive computing power and specialized knowledge.
Right, you needed a server farm.
Yeah, exactly. Today, a teenager with a laptop and a stolen photograph can generate a real-time, hyper-realistic video clone of you in minutes.
And the specific detail from our sources is that because of this surge, the industry has officially killed off active liveness.
Good riddance, honestly.
Now, for anyone listening, you've probably experienced active liveness. It's when you try to open a high-security app and the screen prompts you to prove you're human by saying, like, smile or blink twice or turn your head to the left.
Exactly. For a very brief period in tech history, that actually worked.
Why did it stop working?
Well, AI models used to struggle to generate fluid, artifact-free video of a face turning in real time. It required the system to render entirely new angles of the face instantly, and it usually glitched. So if the camera saw you blink and turn your head smoothly, it safely assumed you were a living, breathing human.
But not anymore.
Not anymore. Modern generative AI can spoof a head turn, a smile, or a blink flawlessly and instantaneously. So relying on the user to perform an action is now functionally useless as a security measure. We have officially entered the era of passive liveness.
And passive liveness relies heavily on defending against something called an injection attack.
Yes, the injection attack.
I need you to break down what an injection attack is, because this sounds like something straight out of a cyber thriller.
It really does. An injection attack is currently the most dangerous threat vector in digital identity. Let's think about a physical security camera in a bank, okay?
Okay.
A traditional attack would be putting on a hyper-realistic rubber mask
Yeah.
and standing in front of the camera. That's what a basic deepfake displayed on an iPad screen is doing.
Just holding up a fake image to the lens.
Right. But an injection attack is like a heist movie. It's Ocean's 11.
Okay, I love this analogy.
The attacker doesn't stand in front of the camera. They sneak into the back room, splice the physical wire leading from the camera to the guard's monitor, and inject a perfectly looped fake video directly into the feed. The guard sees a quiet bank lobby on their screen, completely unaware that the camera lens has been entirely bypassed.
Wow. So applied to a smartphone.
The fraudster uses malicious software to hijack the internal operating system of the phone. When the banking app asks the phone's camera for a video feed to verify your face, the malware intercepts the request.
And then what?
It completely turns off the physical camera lens and injects a synthetic, AI-generated deepfake video directly into the application's data stream. The app's software thinks it's receiving a raw, live camera feed, but it is actually processing a perfectly rendered deepfake generated on a rogue server halfway across the world.
That is genuinely terrifying. Because from the app's perspective, everything looks perfectly normal. How on earth do you defend against a spliced wire inside a smartphone?
It requires a multi-layered, frankly, incredible level of forensic defense. First, you implement hardware-level integrity checks.
What does that mean?
The app interrogates the physical silicon of the phone's camera module, demanding cryptographic proof that the video feed is originating from the actual physical sensor, not a software emulator.
But what if they just point a high-res screen showing a deepfake at a perfectly secure, non-hacked camera? Like they go back to the rubber mask method.
That's where multimodal passive liveness comes in. Since the system can't ask you to blink anymore, it analyzes reality at a level the human eye cannot perceive.
Like what?
It uses the specialized sensors in modern smartphones to conduct real-time 3D depth mapping. It analyzes the microfluctuations in blood flow underneath your skin, something called remote photoplethysmography.
Remote what?
Photoplethysmography.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It detects the microscopic changes in color on your face every time your heart beats. A screen or a deepfake doesn't have a pulse.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Furthermore, the phone screen might flash a subtle, invisible frequency of light, and the camera will analyze exactly how those specific photons scatter and absorb into your epidermal layer. Human skin interacts with light in a vastly different way than a flat OLED screen or a silicone mask.
Okay, this is mind-bending. The old way of verifying identity was a bouncer looking at your face, checking your plastic card, and maybe asking you what your zodiac sign is to see if you hesitate.
Right, the old days.
The new way is a device utilizing multimodal forensics to analyze the way photons bounce off your cellular structure to ensure you aren't a synthetic rendering.
It sounds absurd when you say it out loud, but yes, the system is literally checking your molecular light absorption because simply looking at your face is no longer a reliable indicator of humanity.
And the stakes for getting this right for stopping these injection attacks and deepfakes are no longer just about protecting individual bank accounts.
Not at all.
According to reporting from Biometric Update and ID4 Africa, cybersecurity in the digital identity space has escalated to a macroeconomic issue. We are talking about digital public infrastructure, or DPI.
Identity systems have transitioned from being niche IT projects to sovereign critical infrastructure.
Right.
The reports highlight that ransomware attacks or coordinated takedowns of a nation's digital identity infrastructure can literally paralyze a country. We are seeing estimates that a severe compromise of DPI could cost developing economies up to 2.4% of their entire GDP.
2.4% of GDP. That is the equivalent of a catastrophic natural disaster.
Because if the digital identity system goes offline, the economy just halts. Think about it.
Yeah.
If the cryptographic trust breaks down, people cannot log in to access their bank accounts. The government cannot distribute social welfare or emergency aid. Businesses cannot legally verify or hire employees. Supply chains that rely on verifiable credentials freeze.
Everything stops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is exactly why these systems are being built on strict zero-trust models. You assume the network is already compromised, you assume the device might be hacked, and you cryptographically verify every single microtransaction to ensure the system survives.
Which transitions us perfectly into seeing how this intense zero-trust cryptographic architecture is actually being applied in the real world to solve massive bureaucratic bottlenecks.
It's not just about security.
Right, because this isn't just about playing defense against cyber criminals. It's about offensive efficiency. It's about taking critical industries that have been choked by paperwork and completely overhauling them.
The efficiency gains are truly just as revolutionary as the security upgrades. When you remove manual human verification from a system, you unlock exponential speed.
Let's look at the medical field as our prime example. Our sources from Accountable HQ and the credentialing break down an administrative nightmare that most patients are completely unaware of: healthcare credentialing.
It's a huge problem.
For anyone listening who isn't an administrator at a hospital, you might assume that once a doctor gets their medical degree, they can just walk into a hospital and start treating patients.
The reality is painfully, dangerously slow.
Exactly. Every single time a doctor wants to work at a new hospital clinic, or even just be authorized to accept a new insurance plan like Blue Cross or Medicare, they have to go through credentialing. Their entire background, their education, their state licenses, their malpractice history, their DEA numbers, it all has to be verified from scratch.
And historically, this has been an archaic, manual, paper-heavy process. You have administrators literally faxing universities to confirm graduation dates and calling state boards to check for disciplinary actions.
And the financial cost of this friction is staggering. The specific detail highlighted in the reports is mind-blowing. Over 50% of healthcare providers report significant revenue losses simply due to credentialing delays.
Half of them.
Yeah, sometimes this administrative bottleneck costs individual hospitals over $1 million annually.
Let that sink in. You have fully qualified, desperately needed medical professionals sitting on their hands for months, unable to treat patients or bill insurance, simply because a hospital is waiting for a piece of paper to be verified by a clerk in another state.
It's so frustrating.
It is an incredible waste of resources in a healthcare system that is already stretched to the breaking point.
But 2026 brings a massive mandated shift. CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, along with the NCQA, have instituted sweeping updates.
Paper is officially dead.
First and foremost, yes, paper is dead. They have explicitly mandated the use of digital verifiable records. And because they are leveraging the digital identity infrastructure we've been discussing, there is now a strict 30-day processing standard for clean applications.
But the speed isn't even the most transformative part of this healthcare update. The real revolution is the shift from episodic checks to continuous monitoring.
Break down the difference. What does continuous monitoring look like in a hospital setting?
In the old system, a hospital might spend 3 months credentialing a doctor. and then they wouldn't check those credentials again for 2 or 3 years. It was an episodic snapshot.
Okay.
If that doctor lost their license in a neighboring state or was hit with a major malpractice fine 6 months after being hired, the hospital might not find out until the next renewal cycle years later. It
Yeah.
was a massive liability.
So they were essentially operating blind in the interim.
Exactly. But with verifiable digital credentials connected via APIs, the system moves to continuous monitoring. The doctor's digital credential is a live cryptographic reflection of their status.
Oh, that's smart.
The exact millisecond a state medical board flags a license, or a federal database registers a compliance violation, the digital credential changes state. The hospital's automated compliance software detects the cryptographic change instantly and flags the administrator.
It creates a live, breathing network of trust. And healthcare isn't the only industry undergoing this bureaucratic makeover.
Not at all.
We are seeing identical overhauls in commercial transportation. Looking at the DISA 2026 DOT compliance updates, motor carriers are facing massive regulatory shifts.
Trucking is changing fast.
Yeah, managing commercial driver qualification files, complying with the FMCSA clearinghouse for drug and alcohol violations, tracking hours of service, it is all moving away from paper logs and manual background checks into these continuous digital automated verification systems.
Because the logistics company hauling hazardous materials needs to know immediately if a driver's commercial license is suspended in another state. They can't wait 30 days for a paper report to arrive by mail. The digital credential ensures real-time compliance on the highway.
But wait, I have to stop and really think about the implications of this.
Okay, what are you thinking?
Because while it sounds incredibly efficient, it also sounds incredibly fragile. Let's look at the dark side of continuous monitoring.
The glitches.
Yeah, if everything is digital, instantaneous, and automated, what happens when the inevitable computer glitch occurs? Are we building a system where a highly skilled surgeon is just algorithmically locked out of the operating room because their digital credential failed to sync with the database?
It's a real fear.
Or a long-haul truck driver is stranded at a way station halfway across the country because an API timed out and incorrectly flagged their license as invalid.
That is the exact nightmare scenario that regulators, labor unions, and technologists are violently clashing over right now. You have identified the core danger of the system.
So how do we fix it?
You simply cannot implement automated algorithmic compliance without legally mandating robust, immediate manual overrides.
Because when the computer says no, your livelihood instantly evaporates.
Precisely. If a hospital's automated system flags a doctor based on a credentialing error, there must be a built-in, legally enforced grievance protocol. There has to be a mechanism for the human doctor to appeal to a human administrator and a rapid response database remediation team to correct the cryptographic error.
Right.
If you build these systems without human fail-safes, you aren't eliminating bureaucracy. You are just replacing administrative delays with algorithmic disenfranchisement, which is arguably much worse because algorithms don't listen to reason.
That's a great point.
The technology works flawlessly in a sterile test environment, but the real world is messy. Databases have corrupted entries, and connectivity drops.
And navigating that messy intersection of flawless map and flawed human reality is exactly why staying deeply informed is critical. Which is a perfect moment to remind our listeners to utilize the resources provided by our sponsors.
Yes.
Whether you are a business trying to understand the back-end architecture of these cryptographic shifts at cryptoimpacthub.com, or an individual making sure you don't fall victim to a deepfake injection attack using the tools at scamwatchhq.com, education is your best defense.
Absolutely. As these systems scale globally, knowledge isn't just power. It's a prerequisite for participation in the economy.
Speaking of global scale, let's zoom out. We've talked about state BMVs, European banks, and specific industries like healthcare and trucking. But how is digital identity reshaping entire sovereign nations?
The global stage is where it gets really interesting.
Let's look at the global and political stage.
This is where we see the most profound, life-altering human impact. We have to examine the global digital public infrastructure initiatives, particularly those spearheaded by organizations like the World Bank Group.
The World Bank initiatives are massive. We are looking at programs like ID4D, G2PX, and FastTT. For our listeners, these are comprehensive frameworks and funding mechanisms designed to build digital foundations for developing nations. And the sheer scale of deployment is hard to wrap your head around. A specific data point from the World Bank report really stands out. In Ethiopia, over 36.6 million residents are now formally registered under the FADA ID
No,
system.
36 million.
This isn't just a basic census database. They are actively using this digital ID to issue business licenses to refugees, allowing them to legally integrate into the formal economy.
That changes the entire trajectory of a human life.
And in the Philippines, the numbers are even larger. 80 million people are now integrated into the Phil's digital ID ecosystem. That covers 87% of their eligible population.
That's incredible coverage.
It is. Through this digital identity rollout, they have facilitated the opening of 8 million new formal bank accounts for previously unbanked citizens. Furthermore, they use the digital infrastructure to cut the processing time for vital social benefits from 4 agonizing days down to 1 single day.
What is crucial to understand here is the World Bank's underlying philosophy. They view digital public infrastructure, or DPI, as the absolute baseline foundation of any modern economy.
Right.
We take it completely for granted in the West that we have birth certificates, social security numbers, and driver's licenses to prove who we are. But on a global scale, without a verifiable identity, billions of people are effectively ghosts in the machine.
They just don't exist in the system.
They are locked out. They cannot secure a microloan to start a business. They cannot receive government aid without massive corruption or delay. And they cannot legally prove ownership of their property. In this context, providing a secure digital identity is the ultimate tool for financial inclusion.
But as history constantly reminds us, whenever you build massive, incredibly powerful infrastructure that dictates who gets access to resources, it immediately becomes highly politicized.
Oh, without a doubt.
And we are seeing that friction play out intensely right now in the United States.
Identity is inherently political because it is the gatekeeper to civic participation.
Let's look at how the U.S. Congress is handling this. And as we dive into these legislative texts, I just want to remind you, the listener, that we are reporting purely on the provided source material regarding political legislation. We take no sides. We are just conveying the events and ideas as they're happening.
It's important to state that.
When you read the congressional records, you see a deep bipartisan recognition that digital integrity is a national priority, but sharp divisions on how to enforce it. For instance, there is the Foster-Sessions bill, the Stop Identity Fraud and Identity Theft Act.
Right, the Foster-Sessions bill.
This is a collaborative effort to establish a cohesive government-wide approach to address the gaping vulnerabilities in online identity verification. They are specifically targeting the organized criminal syndicates and hostile nation-states that exploit state-level identity systems to siphon off billions in fraudulent benefits.
That bill highlights how Congress is waking up to the fact that digital identity is a core national security issue, not just an IT modernization problem.
We also see targeted legislation like the Slotkin-Young bill, formerly the Public Integrity and Financial Markets Act of 2026.
That one is really interesting.
It is. It's specifically aimed at prediction markets, companies like Kalshi and Polymarket. The goal is to enforce digital identity guardrails to prevent public servants and government officials from utilizing insider knowledge to trade anonymously on these platforms.
Right, stopping insider trading.
It's a clear move to enforce accountability and digital integrity in newly emerging financial sectors.
But the bipartisan consensus evaporates the moment digital identity intersects with the most fundamental democratic process we have.
Voting.
Yes, the voting debate.
The sources we analyzed from Vote.org, Democracy Docket, Politico, and CBS outline an incredibly fierce, polarizing debate surrounding the SAVE Act, or the Save America Act.
Everywhere.
The core mechanism of this legislation mandates absolute proof of citizenship and strict photo ID verification for voter registration.
And this piece of legislation became a massive legislative flashpoint in Washington.
A completely explosive flashpoint. Former President Trump pushed aggressively to have the SAVE Act attached to critical, must-pass legislation, specifically targeting housing and FISA bills to force it through.
Right.
The specific rationale cited in the congressional debates for this aggressive push was a situation that occurred in Maryland. Due to vendor software errors, mail-in ballots were incorrectly issued or processed.
I remember that making headlines.
Trump and his allies cited these specific vendor errors as empirical evidence that the current system is fundamentally compromised, arguing that strict voter ID and absolute proof of citizenship must be mandated immediately to halt what he termed crooked mail-in voting practices.
Ultimately, the Senate rejected the voter ID amendment. But analyzing the debate itself is incredibly valuable because it perfectly encapsulates the core defining tension of the entire digital identity era.
It really exposes the philosophical fault line. You have two completely opposed views on what the priority of an identity system should be.
Exactly. The tension lies entirely between the mandate for absolute system integrity versus the mandate for universal accessibility.
Tell me more about that divide.
On one side of the aisle, proponents of strict digital ID and verification frameworks argue that it is the only possible way to mathematically guarantee the integrity of a system. Whether you are securing a federal bank, a hospital network, or a federal election, they argue that utilizing cryptographic, verifiable digital IDs is the only way to eliminate fraud completely and restore faith in the institution.
But the counter-argument is equally passionate.
Yes. On the other side, opponents argue that mandating these highly secure, technologically complex systems creates insurmountable barriers to entry.
Because not everyone has a smartphone.
Exactly. If you mandate that a citizen must use a cryptographically secure digital ID on a smartphone to exercise their right to vote or to access survival benefits, you risk massive disenfranchisement.
You lock out marginalized
The
communities.
elderly rural populations without broadband access or anyone who simply lacks the digital literacy to navigate a biometric wallet interface.
It's the ultimate paradox. You build an algorithm that is perfectly mathematically secure, but in doing so, it accidentally locks millions of legitimate users out of society.
It is the defining friction of our time. Absolute cryptographic security versus universal, frictionless access. How governments, corporations, and societies choose to balance that equation will be the primary civil rights battleground of the 2030s.
Wow. Okay, let's take a breath and bring this all back to you, the listener, and summarize the incredible ground we've covered today.
We've covered a lot.
We really have. We started with the physical change in your pocket, the disappearance of the plastic driver's license, replaced by mainstream MDLs in your Samsung wallet, and the legally mandated EUDI wallet sweeping across Europe, transforming the cost of banking.
We saw how that is driven by the invisible plumbing of the DC API in your web browser, securing your data using end-to-end encryption tunnels and X.509 certificates to mathematically block phishing attacks.
We looked at the terrifying front lines of the fraud battlefield, where passive, multimodal AI sensors are analyzing the light bouncing off your skin to fight off deepfake injection attacks that threaten the macroeconomic stability of entire nations.
We examined how this zero-trust architecture is radically transforming bureaucratic nightmares, instituting continuous instant monitoring for healthcare credentialing and trucking compliance, while raising alarms about algorithmic disenfranchisement.
And finally, we saw how digital identity is serving as the foundational public infrastructure for global economic inclusion in places like Ethiopia and the Philippines, while simultaneously sitting at the epicenter of intense political debates over voting access and democratic integrity in the United States. Digital identity truly is the invisible structural infrastructure of the 2026 world.
It is entirely pervasive, yet largely unseen. But before we sign off, I want to leave the listener with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Ooh, okay. Let's hear it.
Everything we've discussed today relies on participation.
Right, you have to actually use the wallet.
Exactly. So as the world fully mandates these frictionless, cryptographically secure, perfectly verifiable digital identities for everything from boarding a commercial flight to seeing a primary care doctor, what happens to the right to remain offline?
Oh, that is a heavy question.
Think about the trajectory. In a few years, as governments and corporations dismantle the expensive physical infrastructure required to process paper documents and plastic cards to save costs, what happens to the holdouts?
The people who refuse to use it.
Yeah. Will choosing to use a physical ID or simply opting out of the digital wallet ecosystem entirely because of privacy concerns automatically flag you as a highly suspicious entity to security authorities and risk algorithms?
Does demanding privacy eventually become synonymous with being an anomaly?
Exactly.
Does choosing the physical plastic make you an inherent threat to the system? That is a haunting concept to end on. Remember, at the very beginning of this deep dive, we talked about the comfort and certainty of handing a bouncer a physical piece of plastic.
Yeah.
It turns out, in the very near future, clinging to that piece of plastic might be the most rebellious, suspicious thing you can possibly do.
A fascinating and perhaps frightening paradox.
It truly is. Thank you so much for bringing such incredible deep insight to this massive topic today. You managed to translate the alphabet soup into reality.
My pleasure.
And to you, the listener, thank you for taking this massive deep dive with us. Don't forget to utilize our sponsors, CryptoImpactHub.com and ScamWatchHQ.com, to stay secure, educated, and one step ahead in this rapidly shifting digital landscape. Until next time.